All right, last time we talked about absolute value and how simple it was and how absolutely awesome that the video was. I know you were thinking that and you love the awesome, absolutely great puns. So there might be a few more. Don't know. You have to wait and see. Okay? One thing I did add, and I know you're really impressed at because you probably zoned in on that, right? You know, after you looked at my beautiful face, you probably looked at this beautiful piece of art. Yes, I know. I'm multi-talented. I'm smart. I'm beautiful. I'm an artiste. I know you're impressed. Okay, let's get down to business. Absolute value and how we use it in the real world. Because it's probably one of those things you look at and you think, okay, I'm not going to use that a whole lot. Well, you're wrong. Okay? Because a lot of times, what you're going to do is you're going to see it as something like this. Now, Cleveland is more than 7 5/10 miles away, but basically, this is absolute value. You're finding out, you're stating that from where you're at, which is the 0 point, you're 7 5/10 miles away from Cleveland. Okay? Now, it doesn't tell you north or south, east or west, okay? Because that would be very specific. So you're telling us basically the absolute value. How far are we, how many units away from where we are right now to that city? Okay? 7 5/10. Okay? Now, if we were talking about north, south, east, and west, then that would be more specific. But they're just asking how many units, doesn't matter where, just like with absolute value. They don't care if it's negative or positive. They just want to know how many units from 0. And where you are at that point is the 0. That's how we're comparing it. That's your 0 point. That's your starting point. And they just want to know how many units away from your 0 point is that number. Make sense? Very easy. And that's kind of what you'll see with some of the questions, the word problems, things like that, is something like that. How many units away from a certain point? And that'll say, what's the absolute value? Okay, so what would be the absolute value of this? 7 5/10. Not negative, never negative. Also, one thing I wanted to touch on as well that I didn't touch on the last video, but wanted to, is 0. What is the absolute value of 0? Well, does 0 have a negative? Does 0 have a positive? No, it has neither. So the absolute value of 0 is always going to be, you guessed it, 0. Okay? Hopefully that clears some things up and shows you how, in the real world, we still use absolute value.